I'm Molly Carmel, and this is the podcast I always wish existed, a bite-sized, on-the-ground spiritual note that can shift your thinking and your outlook on life to help make us all a little bit more awake, alive, and ascending. So, I want to talk today about the spiritual work that's quietly running underneath our lives, even when we don't notice it. And like the honest looking we're sometimes doing in real time alongside the hard things. And how sometimes that hard work really prepares us to meet the truth of our own lives with our eyes already open. So, I finally hired a new assistant, and I'm so excited about it. And I also want to say, if you're a listener of the Daily Ascent, first of all, thank you, love you, hi bestie, you're amazing. But I really deliberately did not hire a virtual assistant. I just wanted someone who lived locally, someone close by, someone I can see in person, be in 3D with, because part of the work I'm doing this year on myself is just reaching for more 3D in connection in my life. And I hope to meet you someday soon. So she lives like 4 minutes from here. It is an absolute dream so far. And I'm so excited about her. And so as I'm getting ready to bring this new person in, my mind just keeps going back to the last time that I had an assistant, which ended very badly. I won't get into the gory details. I mean, I could, but it's a spiritual podcast and that's not really the point. So I'll only spill some of the tea. And some of the tea is that it turns out she had been stealing from me and she had been working for me a really long time. She was stealing time. She was messing with the books. She was just like running parts of my businesses and my life in ways that I was not paying attention to. And it really cost me like big, huge, big. But here's the part that, I mean, I guess nobody really knows that, but here's another part that nobody really knows. The story of what happened with her is inseparable from the story of the work I was doing on myself at the very same time that this happened. So while she was like running off with things that she had no permission to take, my whole life was actually collapsing. And my relationship had blown up. I had moved to North Carolina. My business was in like a super terrifying flux where it was falling apart and I didn't know actually just putting itself back together. I wasn't aware of that at the time. I had no idea that like the ending was not where I was. Like I didn't know that the stronger part was coming because it was just in pieces. And so finding this out was just like another piece. And so in these pieces, I went spiritual on it. Largely, I didn't have another choice. So I was like, okay, everything's falling apart. Let me do some spiritual work on this. And so I was just doing this very deep inventory work with my spiritual advisor, Bessie. I'm obsessed with her. And we were really in the gutters, ascenders. We were looking where, in the parts where you turn towards yourself and you let yourself see what's actually been running the show, what parts of you have been really running the show. And the work was really showing me a lot, right? I mean, take this for what it's worth, but if you can find out that you're the problem, then you can be the solution too. And I've really learned that in my spiritual practice. So long before the truth of my old assistant had surfaced, I was really seeing some patterns about myself, about my avoidance, about not valuing myself enough to insist on being on top of my own life, about how absolutely easy and seamless it was for me to hand things over to people without my own permission, right? Without this conscious choice. Kind of like victimy, like you take care of it, like, oh, like a damsel. And ascenders, I'm not a damsel. So when I finally found out about what she had been doing, I have to tell you, I mean, I was a little bit shocked and I was not shocked at her, right? I mean, I was a little bit, but it was so clear that I had played such a significant part in this, right? So when I put all the pieces together, I was, of course, angry and upset, but I really thought, like, oh, yeah, I can see how I contributed to the conditions that made this possible. Like, obviously, not the stealing, that was hers and that was wrong, but the not looking, the not asking, the like, yeah, sure, I'm sure you have it handled. These quiet handing over of things that were not, that were actually my responsibility, mine to hold. That was on me completely. And that inventory that I had been doing in real time, along with finding this out, meant I could see it the moment it surfaced instead of needing years and years and years to find my way to it or playing the victim or being like, oh, why did this happen to me? I'm sort of like, this is a pretty crappy situation, but I definitely played a part in it. And that distinction really matters. And I almost missed it because I really could have walked away thinking, oh, you're so careless, right? You should have known better. And that would have felt like the truth because she did steal and I didn't see it. But the deeper truth is in that spiritual work that I was doing that had prepared me to meet that moment with my eyes open. Because the work had been opening my eyes the whole time. The collapse and the inventory and the hard truth about her were all part of one season and one, I mean, pardon the pun, but one ascent. One ascent. And so that brings me to our pocket sage today. Good old Melody Beattie. I mean, if you're an ascender and you don't have the language of letting go, which, as I call it all the time, a spiritual horoscope, I mean, what are you even doing? Well, I mean, let me know. I want to know about it. But this is such a beautiful reader, and she's really one of the great voices in recovery literature. And so here's the passage from her daily reader. We look for fears, anger, hurt, and shame from past events, buried feelings that may be affecting our life today. We look at our behaviors and patterns with an eye toward discerning the self-defeating ones. With love and compassion for ourselves, we try to unearth all our guilt, earned and unearned, and expose it to the light. We perform this examination without fear of what we shall find, because this soul searching can cleanse us and help us feel better about ourselves than we ever dreamt possible. That's a goodie. Let me read it again for those of you in the back. We look for fears, anger, hurt, and shame from past events, buried feelings that may be affecting our life today. We look at our behaviors and patterns with an eye toward discerning the self-defeating ones. With love and compassion for ourselves, we try to unearth all our guilt, earned and unearned, and expose it to the light. We perform this examination without fear of what we shall find, because this soul searching can cleanse us and help us feel better about ourselves than we ever dreamt possible. With love and compassion for ourselves. I mean, that is the line, right? And so today's word of the day is lucid. Lucid is I know it's like a bit of an unusual word, but it's not the same as honest and it's not the same as clear-eyed. It's like a quality of seeing that becomes available to you only after the storm has passed. So like in the middle of the chaos, lucid isn't on the menu. You don't have the bandwidth, you don't have the distance, you don't have the calm. You're just trying to live through the thing. But lucid looking is what you can do later from a chair that you can actually sit in with somebody you trust, with a heart that's not flooding. It's the seeing that becomes possible when you finally have the room to see. And it's so different from any kind of looking we do during the storm itself. And just a side note, like lucid doesn't have to hurt. Like we always assume that looking honestly at a hard chapter is going to mean that we have to feel terrible about ourselves. And so then, of course, we don't do the looking. We avoid these inventories because we're afraid there's going to be like a nasty verdict. But as Melody Beattie's saying, right, lucid looking done with compassion and love, it's like an act of kindness towards the person we were and who we couldn't clearly see, and then towards the person we are who can see now. So here's what I want us to be thinking about today. The spiritual work we're doing on ourselves, even and probably especially when it feels slow or invisible, is preparing us to meet the hard things in our lives with eyes already open. And I can speak for myself, but I can put my hand up and say it is really one of the great gifts of doing the work at all. And we get it so wrong because we tend to think that an honest inventory is something we do years after a hard thing. Like once we have some distance to look back, then we'll like sort of review what happened. But I don't know, sometimes it's not how it goes because the work is already running quietly underneath our lives the whole time. And like we're noticing patterns and we're getting clear on what we've been avoiding. And then the hard thing surfaces and the work meets us right there. And we can see lucidity in the moment instead of needing so many years to recover from something. I mean, honestly, this particular situation, it was kind of a quick recover because I felt so empowered by knowing my part in it, right? And this reading says we look at our patterns and our behaviors with love and compassion for ourselves. Love and compassion, not with a prosecutor's voice that lives in most of our heads, mine included, not as a way to settle scores with who we used to be. The honest looking is supposed to feel like coming home to ourselves, right? The other thing that this reading does, and this is the part I want you to really, really hear, is name the fear that keeps most of us from doing this work at all. We perform this examination without fear of what we shall find because most of us avoid the lucid looking because we're afraid of what we're going to see. We're afraid that looking deep into ourselves is going to turn up something like so damning or so painful that we're never going to recover from it. And what this reading is saying, and what every wise teacher I've ever come across has ever said, is that the soul searching itself is actually what makes you feel better and more whole, more awake, more alive, more ascending, not worse. The looking is the cleansing, not the conclusion. And so for me in this case, like that inventory showed me I wasn't afraid of what I found. You know, I had been afraid of finding that I was stupid or careless or that I deserved what happened, but what I really found was, you know, a woman in the middle of a really hard season who had been quietly handing over things that were hers to hold, just giving her power away because she didn't yet have the practice of staying close to her own life and her own soul. And I don't think that's a verdict. I think that's a portrait. And I really see myself with love instead of judgment. And I think that's the whole point. Because you know what? I carry it with me into this next relationship, right? And the gift of having already done that work, again, is like I come into this new chapter, eyes open. I'm not bringing the avoidance forward. I'm not bringing the quiet handing over forward. I'm bringing the version of me that the spiritual work has been slowly building into a new beginning that deserves this new best version of me. And I'm sure there's more work to come. Promise you that. So here is your reflective question for the day. What hard chapter are you ready to look at with love instead of judgment? I want to hear about that. Can you email me if you're doing that work? Oh my goodness. Email's in the show notes. dailyascentpod@gmail.com. And I just want to say one more thing to anyone whose hard chapter has to do with food and body and this diet cycle of starting over. You know, so much of what we call shame about those years is actually unfinished inventory. Like we didn't have that lucidity then to see what we were really doing or why, and we didn't have the right solution to the problem. And I have the right solution to the problem. My Stop Starting Over system is incredible. It is helping so many people find exactly what I'm talking about in this podcast today. So if you want to know more about it, please go to the show notes, click and schedule a call with me. And if you want to know more about that program, go to mollycarmel.com. And listen, I am right here with you, Ascenders, looking back with love instead of judgment and bringing different patterns forward. And listen, if this is speaking to you, let it speak to somebody else. And don't remember these like, share, subscribe, all of the things because we rise together. Until next time.